Hello and welcome back to the show. My name is Mark and this is Mark's Coding Projects. This is video number 24. So in the last video, sort of ran around trying to debug a few issues. We have a stable build, and at the moment what that means is that these methods, our output, our board conversion methods, if you like, so converting the board from a 2D array to a string and converting it from a string to a 2D array, all of that works. That works both on the client side and the server side, I believe. Basically, all of that is now working. So all of that has been thoroughly tested. The next thing that we need to test is and this is not on the connection container, thank God, this is on our server. We need to test the read-write, the saving connections to the text file, and all of this. So all of this is commented out. Basically, we found out in the last video that it doesn't work. So I've done some thinking, sort of. I'll be honest, I've made a few more videos and sort of talked about the problem a bit more and sort of managed to figure out in my head quite what's going on. So I think the problem that we have is output to client is only triggered once in this entire method. So if the moment we activate this code up here, our waiting for the initial waiting for the input, you know, have you got a saved game, have you not, that is just going to hang, because unless you do have a saved game, you're never going to receive any output from the client. And so I want to say interesting. It's interesting because you would think that potentially if there's no input coming in from the client, then this input here would match this input here, possibly. But I guess since we're not doing anything with the response, it doesn't matter. I don't know, maybe it's output. If we receive a player counter variable, then that counts as input. So surely that counter, whether it's a 1 or a 2, will be loaded into response. Therefore, response will no longer equal space. And therefore, this should carry on as normal, just with the input being out of order, potentially. But then I guess maybe it crashes at this point here, in that if we move this input to here, so this is going to be receiving the player counter rather than a saved game or no saved game. And then if we move this up to here, counter is going to be receiving a board. Could that be the issue? That makes so much sense, because the first value in our board is going to be a 0. Since it's a brand new board that we're going to be receiving right off the bat. Well, at the moment, we're going to develop that, but at the moment, it is just going to be a blank board. And since that's the case, then counter is going to equal 0. And I want to say that it's going to hang here, but just to check, I'm going to put in a little print statement. So this is my theory. I could run this and it could be totally wrong, and then you can all laugh at me. But I think it's here. So we're going to make this error message Mark was right, because I'm feeling very smart that I've managed to figure this out. This could end badly, but we shall see. Okay, so the moment of truth. Running the server. The server is up and running. Fantastic. We're running a main class. Mark was right. Oh, that's what we like to hear. Oh, I don't understand what's happening. Did I uncomment the code possibly? That shouldn't have happened, but okay, cool. Interesting. I left the code commented. God damn it. So I just tried to test it, and I left the code that was causing the error commented. So unsurprisingly, we didn't get an error. So we're gonna try it. Dude, I'm just saying, you know, like guys, like, you know, he's a genius. He's a straight genius. So the only thing that I'm not quite sure on, I think might mean that I'm wrong, kind of right, but kind of wrong, is that in my head, this would keep going on down here. So we would have this printing repeatedly. Because in my head, counter equals it. Oh, I'm actually completely wrong, aren't I? That's annoying. Okay, so my theory is not correct. Based on this input, I think that we are receiving a variable for counter, which is not equal to 0, and therefore it is closing the loop. Let me explain. So if counter were to equal 0, then this loop would just keep going around. And in my head, I feel like it would keep on printing. Sorry, I just wanted the indentation annoyed me. So in my head, I think it would keep on printing this. It would keep going over and over and over again. So clearly it's receiving something which isn't equal to 0. So the first thing that I'm going to try is I'm going to say, okay, what is counter equal to? That's what I'm going to make. Second of all, so we're going to put in two tests at once. We're going to print out counter, and we're going to call it counter. And then we are also going to copy Mark was right, even though he wasn't, into here. So we're going to see, okay, is it getting here and is it getting stuck in this while loop? Because it is clearly hanging somewhere. And we know that the game loop works fine. So it's somewhere along here, the client applications are hanging. And yeah, we need to figure out why. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Client's back up, fantastic. Second client is up. Ooh. Okay, now that is interesting. That is weird. That is, okay. Don't quite understand. Funky. Okay. When we put a print statement at the start, it's called the print statement. It didn't tell us the value of counter, which means that it's getting stuck here. Okay. If that's the case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to print out what it is we are loading to our counter. So what is the value that should be being written? So what I mean by that is this contains a string value. By putting a print statement, which prints out the value that will be returned by this method, I'm seeing what value it is that I am assigning to counter, or at least what value I will be converting to an integer. That's weird. Okay, that's really weird. I do not understand that. So you are receiving input. You are connected. So why aren't you running? Okay, this is bizarre. So we are receiving a counter value. So clearly that is not a problem. What happens if I convert it to an integer? That's the only thing that I can think of. Pass int, counter space. This shouldn't be called counter space, by the way. We're going to call this data because that is technically inaccurate. This can be more than just a counter space. Server running, cool. Main class running. Cool, you're the same, you match, and yet still not working. Interesting. Is something open, maybe? So my problem is, why, this should go ahead. So why is the print statement not running? That to me makes no sense. I don't get why. Okay, real quick. Ooh, okay, something has clicked. This could be the data that we were reading. Possibly. So this is the point at which counter is, when this line is executed, our print statement is run. Okay, so currently response equals either 1 or 2, which is fine. That's all working properly. But what it means is that A, this isn't going to work correctly because we can't do anything with 1 or 2. This is expecting a string yes or no response, and currently it seems like we're not getting a no because 2 is not no. Second of all, what it means is that this is hanging because our connection container presumably isn't going to send anything until where our output's within our input statement, isn't it? Where is it? Yeah, you're waiting for input. Yeah, so you are waiting here. So you're stuck here. That's fine. And you're stuck there because an output method needs to be executed. And instead of receiving an output, the client is requesting more input from you. So we're putting out one piece of output, from the server, and we need to put out 2. And the client is sat there waiting for 2 sets of output from the input, and it's only receiving 1. So that's the problem. Which, to be fair, is kind of what I said it was all along. So I believe if we put Mark was right here, Mark was right. Cool. My theory is that, well, 2 big things that I feel like I've worked out. First and foremost, that stuff about the input is just going to skip is total garbage. I think that is completely wrong. So that is one improvement we're going to make. All of these while loops, I think I can get rid of. So that's the first thing. Second thing, if I've got this correct, we're going to receive a 1 or a 2, which is going to be produced when this is called up here. We're then going to receive Mark was right, and then it's just going to hang on this line, which A, proves the input hangs without a while loop, and B, proves that we need to be putting something out every single time in order to meet this input request, so that it never receives the counter variable as the input rather than existing connection or not existing connection. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, server's up. Client is up. Other client is up. Mark was right. Oh, he so was, because he's a genius. Thank you very much. So first and foremost, we're going to get rid of the while loops. So, while loops, easy. Get rid of all that crap. We don't need it. Because I have a feeling that it's going to run through once. Sure, you do that. That's really annoying, but go for it. What? Oh my god, I'm pressing enter. You idiot. Okay. I fixed it. It's fine. It's cool. I know what I'm doing. Ish. Yeah, I know getting loads of errors because I've got a... Yeah, cool. Right, there we go. Right, get rid of you because you suck as well. No, don't go there. Why? Okay, fine. Start from the top and then work down. Okay, fairs. Get rid of you. Because you suck. Is that necessary? No. Oh, why are you getting upset? Yeah, of course it is. Cool. That. Yeah, the while loop for the game board is fine. We need to remove the waiting for input on the this one. I think we need to stay because otherwise we're only going to request input once, so that one's fine. However, we can get rid of it. That actually makes so much sense as well. We need to get rid of it in output to client. No. Input from client. Get lost. You suck. Get rid of you. And oh, is this still causing errors? Yeah, we know what that is, so that's fine. Well, we don't know that one. I'm gonna leave that coloured in for now because that might be another stage of errors that we need to sift through. Update connection, no. Output, does output you know? Opponent, yeah, you do. See, you can go away. Go away. Put you there, you. Cool. Right. Run it again without while loops. Okay, so we are off again. Mark was right, Mark was right. All the same errors, it's not breaking. Cool. So it seems to be happy without while loops. Great. Okay, so all we need to do is I've put an output to client method inside of our second for loop. So if you'll remember, the first for loop is used to determine whether or not we have an opponent in the text file. If that isn't the case, we're going to move on to the second for loop. You'll notice that if that isn't the case, output to client is never triggered. With this new system, now it is, and we will receive something. We'll receive an input. We will meet that requirement, and therefore we should be fine. So I'm going to run this again and see what happens. Oh, that's not good. Oh no. Connection was killed. Why? That's bad. Okay. Okay. If you rejoin, what happens? You die. Sick. Sick, sick, sick. Okay. Noted. Back to the drawing board. First thing I want to do, I want to get rid of these commented out lines in write client. I'm going to go for that first, just to see if it makes any difference. No, it doesn't. Cool. So I'm going to comment these back up. It would have been nice if this was the solution. It's not. It would have been nice. So I thought I'd give it a go. I am going to clear this IP list because I think it's probably quite a nuisance having that there. Plus it clutters up my display. Where is connection was killed? So for some reason it's dying when a second connection joins and is connected up, it dies. Not too sure why, but it does. So that's a problem. What's the first method? Right connection, second method. Okay, so let's go through the timeline, right? Imagine you're client number 1. Okay. You rock up, you say, hey, I want to play a game. A list of connections is established. Great. Client IP, which currently isn't being used, is also built based off of your IP and port number. it makes an attempt to lift the connections from a text file, right? Loads them into an array. This seems to be working fine. We'll skip that for now. So if you're a second connection, as your first connection, you meet this for loop. Written equals false. We are going to loop through here. I'm going to loop through the list of connections in the text file. I'm going to say, okay, hey, are any of you free for us to join? Have you got a slash, i.e. you're an IP, and have you not got a space, i.e. you haven't got a partner? If so, you will be written next to our existing connection. That's actually, that is an interesting test that we can do. Okay, first test. We need to see if this works. So is it pairing connections? I personally think it is. Considering the messages that we receive, I actually think it's getting all the way to update connection. So where is update connection? We go down here. None of this is going to be triggered, I don't think. So we're just going to put a quick thing in. So I'm just going to try and establish where update connection is triggered. So update connection is when we update the connections in our list so that they display as being connected, or eventually not connected, which I'm going to have to. So put in a print statement, and it's just going to say for loop 2. And I want to see if this is the update connection, which we're seeing output for. I'm like, explain what that means. So when I say update connection output, I mean all of this. So all of this is part of the update connection method's output. So the update connection method prints out a load of values to make sure that the connections are being saved successfully to our connections list. It's just a nice little debugging thing. We'll probably get rid of it once we know that it all works, but for now, it's handy. So you're going to die probably. Yeah, you died. RIP. Waiting for input. For loop. I meant to put for loop 2, but regardless, that's proven our point. So that means that it is this one here that is the update connection that we are triggering. Update connection returns a Boolean value. I believe update connection by default returns true. It returns false. This is triggered. Not connected is set to false. And the next time round, it terminates the loop. Presumably because not connected is set to false. What is the value of not connected? Is it just a case that not connected needs to be reset? Is that all this has to be? Well, no, it can't be that simple. Because not connected is reinstated every single time the method is called, and the method will be called twice. Surely it will be called twice. Okay, so for loop was printed when the second client was connected, not the first. The reason I say that is because if it was printed for the first, then there'd be 2 times it was written. It was only written once. So that means it was printed on the second time. The first time, this was executed. And we know that this all works. This has been tested. The thread is started in update connection, so that can't be the problem. We know update connection works. Well, I mean, yeah, we know it does because we just tested it the previous time they connected. So it's not update connection. We're going to put in a print stack trace. So we had an error message. So we had an error message in our second client application that says unable to make connection. We've found where that is. That is the main game loop. Is surrounded by a try-catch due to the various connections that we make to the server. So we're going to do a print stack trace to find out what the error is. Because we've got it on the server side, we don't have it on the client side. So I think that might be quite useful. So we can establish what it is that's breaking. Is it just a case that this statement is failing? Is that really it? So what I think is, now that we've reassigned the output, now that the output for response is yes or no rather than a number, n isn't a recognized integer. So when I had a conversion down here that converted a string to an integer, n was failing. So I think that was the problem. So if we look at the stack trace again, you'll notice number format exception for string input string n. So I think that's a problem. It certainly matches the lines as well. So it matches. You notice main class.input. So it's failing on the exact line that we had the print statement. That was all it was. Jeez. I mean, we fixed it. Awesome. You're working. Mark was right because he's a genius. Love him. 3. Hey, I'm back. So the problem seems to be, I think, somewhere in here. And I reckon it's probably here. Okay, so the error in the message that we're getting is that the number format exception, the exception that we're getting is that the input string n is not it's not a number. So I'm wondering if actually this is causing a problem. I'm going to comment it out. I'm going to run again. I'm going to see what happens. Okay, it's hanging. It's not failing. Cool. So you are, what input are you waiting for? Let's find out. Okay, so where are you hanging? You're hanging here. So counter's not being assigned. Or at least no value is coming down this input. Interesting. We need 2 of these. S connections get x dot get socket dash n. Right, what happens now? Nice, you failed. So did you both get counters? You did both get counters. That's positive. 3. And you're dead, so you're not going to receive anything. But player 1 at least now is running successfully, so that's a start. Player 2 is still crashing. Player 2 is crashing here. So player 2's inputs and outputs don't match up to that of player 1's. And that is interesting. Well, I don't get why it's doing that. So if you're player 2, what happens? You join. You should immediately make this. This should be the first response that you receive. Or sorry, the first response from the server, first piece of information that you receive from the server. And that should be default whether you're player 1 or player 2. So I'm going to say it's weird because we know that this code must have executed, otherwise it wouldn't have got all the way down to board to array. What I don't get is why, unless it's just a case of the inputs being sent to, is player 2 just further ahead in its receiving of inputs, maybe? Oh, let's try that. Nice, you broke. Second count value, cool. Received existing game. Let's make something up. Connection number 1, fine. Connection number 2, fine. Immediately dead. Because you work fine. You are failing. But you're, oh. Okay. I have fixed it. So, ignoring this mumbo jumbo, what it needed was it needed an output to client for both the existing and the new socket, and it needed those in before update connection. So what was happening was update connection was triggering, it was sending the counter, and then it was going back and sending some output. Okay, so just to reiterate, we need to call player2's method first, because if we trigger player 1, then it will send a game board across to player 2, and that will populate the input method, which is waiting for this output. So if we send player 2 first, that game board won't be sent across, and therefore it will work correctly. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. The full code will be up on GitHub. Please do like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys for the next video.